And last but not least, let me just talk about Beastie Boys Story, right? This is a documentary film. It was written, produced, and directed by, well, a good friend of the Beastie Boys, actually, Spike Jonze. Because, yeah,
Right.
Spike Jonze have had, he has had, been quite a fascinating history with the Beastie Boys, actually, actually making some of their 90s music videos and stuff like that. Um, and well, just to jumping into the Beastie Boys, right? Now for me, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of the group, right? But I do love their music. I do love their approach to the music, to their music, right? Which is mainly like this mixture. Okay, well, I'll just kind of explain, right? So with their debut album, License to Ill, it kind of got this frat boy, party animal kind of aspect from the group, right?
Right.
Group, of course, consisting of three members. That would be Michael Diamond, aka Mike D, Adam Horowitz, aka Adrock or King Adrock, and of course, well, the late great Adam York, aka Youch, sorry,
Right.
aka MCA. Well, the late great MCA. Yeah, he passed away in the early 2010s to cancer, right? And the show pretty much is a dedication to them, right? So yeah, about the group, right? So yeah, I heard License to Ill not when it came out. Okay, it came out way back in like '86, right? But I heard it like long after the fact because songs like "Fight for Your Right to Party" were popular. They were just part of pop culture, right? So I heard it and I pretty much enjoyed it. I mean, it was just silly frat boy thing, but in my head I was like, this is clearly for white guys, right? And well, the show kind of, well, one big reveal that I didn't even know about, they were kind of mocking frat boys though with that
Right.
song and
Yeah.
that album. I was like, wow, okay, so they were really about that life, right?
Yeah, they were for me, I would say, not as extreme, but they were like a kind of proto, like what Lonely Island is now.
Exactly. Yeah. You're actually right. Pretty much proven that, yeah, white males can actually rap. It's not just a black thing, right? And with the 80s, and with guys like Curtis Blow,
Yeah.
and the Fat Boys and Run DMC, of course, who was signed on to Def Jam Records, who initially, basically BC Boys was signed on to. And well, in the documentary, you go as far as saying that, well, Russell Simmons actually signed them on and actually kind of made them into who they were. He wanted them to be this chart selling white rap group, right? You know what I mean? The white B boys who became like the ultimate rap group, right? So that's essentially who they were, right? Even though
Right.
their early history was just with punk music, right? Yeah, they were a punk rock band actually, right? But anyway, so yeah, dug the album for what it was, but it's really the later albums. Well, I would say the four albums out there, four subsequent albums. That's when I really got into their style and their aesthetic, and I was like, yeah, they are clearly one of the best groups ever, regardless of music, right? And the reason being is because they weren't afraid to change. They weren't afraid to adapt. Sorry, not so much adapt their sounds, but experiment, try new things out. You know what I mean? Kind of take what it is they've listened to with records, stuff that they've musical genres that they've been attracted to, and blend that into their music, right? So with Paul's Boutique, which was the second album, which he did with Capitol Records, which was a flop, unfortunately. But this to me is one of like probably one of my all-time favorite rap albums, mainly because of how sample heavy it is. Yeah, this is an
Right.
album which is heavily reliant on sampling, right? But how they did the sampling in this was just quite revolutionary, actually, as far as music goes, right? And well, quite interesting enough, the guys who produced it were the Dust Brothers, right? Who we would know as the guys who did the music, the excellent music for Fight Club, right? Back in '99. So in like the in the '90s now, they had just opportunities for them because they were still signed on to Capitol Records, right? Even though Paul's Boutique didn't sell, they were still signed on to Capitol Records. It was this multi-record deal, right? So they had Check Your Head in 992. They had Ill Communication, which of course has like one of their greatest songs ever, Sabotage. Like every time you hear that song, even though in your case, like with the with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek trilogy, well, the first and the last film use that song a lot. I love those moments in the movies, by the way. I don't know about you. You probably find them to be annoying, but I don't know. Every time Sabotage played in those movies, I was just like, wow, we just losing my shit, right? Get Together, which had my boy Q-Tip in it, was great. Sure Shut, stuff like that was great, right?
Right.
Check Your Head was pretty decent as well, too, right? It had like Passing Mike, it had So What You Want. But in this case, it had a lot of like rock inflections in it too, right? And remember, this was in the heydays of like 90s grunge rock and all that kind of stuff, right? So they had a nice little fit in there, right? So you know what I mean, the rock heads gravitated to the hip hop heads, were like, all right, cool, I'm digging this shit. And Nirvana was big, all right, cool. So these guys doing that thing, but it was leagues beyond what they did back with License to Ill, right? And then we had, well, one of my personal favorite albums from them, which was Hello Nasty, right? This was where they just went wild with their music. They had tracks like Intergalactic, which is one of my all-time favorite rap songs. Every time I hear that song, and then I just remember the
Wow,
video and how wild and crazy it
what?
is. I just love it. Sorry?
Sabotage was the album, right?
No, Sabotage was on Ill Communication. That was back in '94. This one came out
Okay.
in '98. Hello Nasty, right? So you had
Right.
Intergalactic, you had Body-Movin, and just those two
Right.
songs
Yeah.
together. What I loved about those, I love those songs so much, right? Is how even in '98 they incorporated the '80s golden age b-boy aspect to their style and sound. So yeah, when you hear
Right.
Intergalactic, when you hear Body-Movin, you could just imagine just b-boys like just wilding out, just doing the moveset, man. Just because of how, well, in the case of Intergalactic, how futuristic it was. I mean, it just fit. But Body-Movin, I never forget, had a steel pan sample in this. It had a steel pan sample. I forgot the song that it was playing. I think it's Oye Komova from Santana, right? So it was this
Right.
steel pan cover fit. But how they worked it into that song, every time I hear it, I just be like, just losing my mind thread. But along with that, they also incorporated reggae, you know what I mean? And just different styles into their music, right? And that's something I just always loved about the band, right? Of course, they had like in the 2000s, they had stuff like To the Five Boroughs, which I remember had well the big single. I remember this being on Rhapsody being on Rhapsody, which was check it out. That would be
Right.
check it out, right? I just also remember just loving everything about that song. And then also because they didn't compromise on their golden age hip hop roots, right? So it did
Right.
sound like, yeah, this was like a 80s rap song, but just with 2000s production. I just love the hell out of that song, right? Um, and then, well, with the final album, Hot Sauce Committee Part 2, was just like, you know what I mean? We are still old school icons, right? But we basically doing the stuff that we love, right? We just doing this golden age hip hop's tribute, right? But it's just in the 2000s, right? They even had this great track, Too Many Rappers, which featured our boy Nas in this, right? Great
Right.
throwback tribute track on that joint, right? And yeah, I mean, from there, just over the years, I just grew to love that band, man. I mean, but just mainly, I just want you to just share your thoughts on the band itself before I get to the documentary. Just how they were able to evolve, right? Just how they were able to try new things, whether it's with genres or with production or with songwriting and whatnot, and just always change over the years, right? And even in their personal lives, they change and stuff like that. They were far from the frat boys that you would assume they were back in the early 80s. They grew up to be, just to be great musicians, just great musicians, period, right? But it was just that idea of changing, not being tied down to one stereotype or one identity, always changing, always learning, always growing, right? And then, but whilst staying true to your sound, staying true to what got you into this in the first place. And that would be, yeah, golden age hip hop, right? And that to me is really why I, appreciate that band so much. Say, Ricardo, anything you just want to weigh in on the Beastie Boys, just the music as a whole? Anything you want to weigh in?
No, yeah, it's nice. I only go through the popular stuff that they had. I was not too familiar with the discography per se. Just yeah, Sabotage, Intergalactic, Fight for Your Right to Party. That's all I know. Sorry to say.
All right. But I would strongly recommend that you do check out their music. Yeah, the music, their discography, great man.
I'm actually familiar with it, but
Yeah, well, I understand what I mean. But yeah, I do recommend if you get around to it, just check out this stuff, right? Which leads me now to Beastie Boys Story, right? Which I said is a documentary which was written, produced, and directed by their good friend Spike Jonze, who has, filmed some of the videos like Intergalactic and Sabotage.
Yep.
You know, those are the two main videos that he was, well known for actually. Before he broke out into Hollywood, right? Going into this, I just knew that it was about the Beastie Boys. It was from Spike Jonze, and it was on Apple TV. That's all I knew, right? What I didn't know, however, was that it's pretty much a stage show, actually. Well, just not a stage show, actually, but more like a live, like a stand-up performance, basically, I would say. A stand-up show, I should say, right? So it's very much just like what we've seen on Netflix with Dave Chappelle and Aziz Ansari, right? Both Mike D and Ad Rock on stage. You know what I mean? A huge crowd of Beastie Boys fans and supporters there, and they just pretty much talking about their life story, right? And Spike Jonze, you do hear him in the background. He's the guy pretty much just showing these slides and whatnot. There's like a little glitch here or there, like typical technical stuff, right? But I like how they kind of added into this one, because this actually was the last show, right? Usually with these stand-up shows, they always have like 2-3 days of performances, and you'll just kind of pick the best one. Usually it's the last show, and you will stick with that, right? Ever so often they might cut back to, oh, this was how the performance was back then, right? They do that near the end, but I'll talk about the end in a bit, right? So yeah, right off the bat, it's like, okay, this is what it is. Because at first I was telling myself, all right, it's gonna be archival footage and the band talking, but they're not talking to an audience, they're talking to the viewers now. Like, I thought it was going to be like Wu-Tang Clan of Mics and Men, where the guys are, well, in the case with the Wu-Tang, they were in a cinema, and we're just watching the archival footage, or just talking about stuff, and then you have your talking heads and stuff like that. I thought it was going to be like that. But just mainly, well, yeah, this footage of this stand-up thing that they did, right? So that was kind of interesting, right? But yeah, with the Beastie Boys, well, with the two surviving members, they talk about their early days as a punk band, how they got the name Beastie Boys in the first place is kind of funny, but I don't want to spoil it. The fact that there was another band member, this would be, I forgot the girl's name. I think it's Kate or Katie or something like that. And she used to play drums now. But, like I said, this was around the time where they were focused solely on punk rock, right? Which was big. During that the late 70s to early 80s, that period, right? But because they were exposed to hip hop in the mid 80s, right, and because they were just such fans of Run DMC, like they used to like worship their music, right? So when the Run DMC came with Sucker MCs, still one of the greatest rap songs ever written, right? They were just like, yo, this is what we want to incorporate rap now into what it is we're doing, right? And how they got into rap is pretty intriguing, actually, how they did that, right? But I don't want to spoil that neither. But they talk about how, well, a close friend of theirs turned out to be Rick Rubin, right? Iconic producer, co-founder of Def Jam Records, right? And he pretty much was the one who got Beastie Boys into the door, of Russell Simmons' office, right? And once he saw them, he was like, yo, he just saw the potential, like, white b-boys rapping, okay, cool, this is what I'm gonna make you guys at, right? And he pretty much shaped them into the Beastie Boys that we were introduced to, right, with the album License to Ill, right? But it's just ironic, and this is like me learning this for the first time, is that the whole frat boy stuff that they were that they presented themselves as was just them kind of poking fun. It was just kind of poking fun. It was a parody, right? So Fight for Your Right to Party was literally a parody of that frat boy lifestyle, right? But like the first time I heard the album, I was just like, okay, well, clearly they're that type, right? Because that essentially is who the album is aimed at. It's for white boys who just want to party and get drunk and do craziness, right? That's who it's for. But I didn't know that it was just a facade. They were just doing this for kicks, basically, right? There's even one great scene, actually. It's a small scene, right? where I think it's Mike D, or I think it's Mike D, talks about, well, a song that was on that album called Girls, right? And he was just pretty much talking about the last lines of it, which is like, girls, clean, wash my clothes, and do all these menial chores for me, right? Now on the album it sounds goofy and silly, right? It's a silly song, right? But in this case here with the movie, he's kind of saying, well, at that time we were young, we were dumb, we didn't know that it's kind of sexist. I mean, that's the way how we talking about women, right? It's kind of demeaning. So him kind of reading out those lines and this kind of with regret, like, yeah, like we really shouldn't have said that. You know what I mean? That was just such a powerful moment in that show there, like that self awareness now. Um, but yeah, from there, and this is coming from somebody who didn't really know anything about their like just the life behind their albums, right? So things didn't play out well with Def Jam because they just got burnt out, right? You know what I mean? Just living that party lifestyle. It was too much for them. So they left Def Jam. They wanted to stray away from that frat boy aspect, and then they met up with the Dust Brothers and they did Paul's Boutique, which was mainly just experimentation and sampling, mainly on sampling, right? And the album was a flop and all that kind of stuff, but they still wanted to develop themselves and all that kind of stuff. And then with Check Your Head, that's when they brought back the rock aspect into it, right? And then from there, the albums and the fan base just expanded, right? And well, now more people embrace them in the 90s more than in the late 80s, basically, right? Um, Especially with just the nature of rock back in the 90s, right? They mentioned Lollapalooza and all that kind of stuff. They performed there as well. So it's like, yeah, they were just that perfect fit, right? By the same time, with hip hop, it was just like, yeah, they are still icons of that music. So they could experiment all they want, but they never lost sight of where they came from, right? I love that aspect about it. So yeah, the show basically just kind of has the two of them just going into detail about the ups and downs in the music game. Of course, they touch on MC's life and just how he influenced the band. I mean, he was just the one who kind of pushed them to do things, to try things out, right? And I love that about the show. But if I have a few gripes, though, it's just that for one thing, I thought that they would have covered the entirety of the musical career. Could they just kind of stop at Hello Nasty and just left it there? Like, To the Five Boroughs and Hot Sauce Committee Part 2 didn't exist. That's the albums they put out in the 2000s, by the way. Just kind of stop at Hello Nasty back in 98, and it's like 20 more minutes again in the show, because the show runs for like 2 hours, right? And the rest of it is just this memorial, this tribute basically to MC, right? Which was a really sweet and genuine moment, right? There's moments where both I think, well, it's either Mike Dio or Ad Rock were tearing up, right? And this is them reading off of this teleprompter, and even one moment where it's like, yo, I can't finish this, just finish this up for me, please. And they were reading off from it now. You could really tell how the death affected them now, because like I said, he was just a driving force into just Beastie Boys themselves. You know what I mean? Just them doing what they were doing, them becoming a punk rock band to begin with. You know what I mean? He was just a driving force into their creativity, their style, the sound, everything, right? And like I didn't even know that he had this fund or foundation with Tibetan monks. 'Cause he was just fascinated by the non-violence, just how they were anti-violence basically. You know what I mean? And like that. Even had like sorry, a charity music festival. You know what I mean? In for the Tibetan monks actually. Like I didn't know that he was doing these things behind the scenes, right? He was also a filmmaker as well. Like I kind of forgot about that. You know what I mean? But but at the same time he was still a member of Beastie Boys, right? So I just love the fact that you saw the maturity, sorry, of the band, right? You saw how they grew over time, right? Not just in age, but just in mindset. You know what I mean? Just in the things that they learn and things that they do and things that they believe in, right? I love that aspect about it. But yeah, I really do. I really felt like they kind of spend a lot of time on the early days, right? And yes, while it does make for great storytelling, because like in my case, I never knew these things. Like, yeah, cool. I want to know like what went on there when you went to Japan and went to England. Those things. Those I like the come up stories. I like stories like that, right? But admittedly, there is a lot of time spent on the early days, right? But it does help story-wise in terms of showing their growth over time, right? But I just really thought that they were going to cover the 2000s period of their career. This kind of focus on the 80s and 90s, and that's pretty much it, right? Also, I saw some complaints with the pacing, and well, that just kind of goes back to what is just mentioned there before with how much time was spent on whatever period or decade, right? And yes, it's understandable. I get it, but look, at the end of the day, this is a story they want to tell, and it's a pretty solid story overall, right? Story is something that I could look at and be inspired by. You know what I mean? Like someone who doesn't want to be just put into a box. I mean, I always want to learn things and do things as well and grow over time, right? And just hearing how they did it too is kind of like inspirational to me too, though. So I got that. I would say though, just off of the approach alone, which threw me off at first, right? Like people go in and expecting your average music doc. This is not that type of show. It's actually quite different though. I like how in true Spike Jonze format, it's simple, you know what I mean? And yeah, I just imagine people would have gone in expecting one thing and seen something else, which is very Spike Jonze in my opinion, right? But I just love that it's just these two guys on a stage, just reminiscing, just talking about the early days and just the stories behind the songs that you know and love and things like that now. And just touching on the music as well, touching on the music. I love the fact that they got into, hey, this is what inspired us to do Fight for Your Right. Just knowing that they were poking fun at frat boys. That was funny actually. How they came up with Sabotage, which just came off of MC just playing this bass line on his guitar. Of course, they talk about when they shot the music videos for Sabotage, for Fight for Your Right, for Intergalactic and stuff like that. I love the music video for Intergalactic, by the way. Just that kaiju inspired video is just so awesome, right? And last thing that I want to say before I get to rating, you do have a blooper reel at the end though, where essentially you're seeing moments from the previous performances or stand-up performances actually, and that was pretty interesting. You saw some really rare archival footage of like behind the scenes of where they were shooting videos or promos actually for tours and whatnot back in the 80s, spots on MTV where they were on this particular show. You know what I mean? So for music purists like me or for Beastie Boys purists, this was great to see, right? And imagine some people probably saw this stuff already because although I've never seen before, I think I did, but I can't remember if I did. There was this Criterion Collection release of like the music videos now. I still have yet to watch it though, right? But it's just all the videos that they shot from the 80s to, I think it's from to 2000 or something like that, right? But imagine like the archival stuff was like, stuff that they was already in the Blu-ray or DVD, whatever it is, right? So people probably saw it already, but I never saw it before. It's like, hey, cool, I get to see this stuff. That's awesome, right? But yeah, other than that though, it is what it is. It just tells a story like it's in the title. It's the Beastie Boys story. That's what it is, right? So if you go in
Right.
expecting more than that, then you'll be kind of disappointed by this, right? The approach to it is very simple, but I like that. It's very unconventional, which is so Spike Jonze, as I say. And you do hear him in the back kind of messing things up, both intentionally and unintentionally. So that was cool. Just hearing from Mike D and, Ad Rock, just telling the story was great as well. It just kind of brought it into their zone, into their world as well. I dug that. Um, yes, I would admit, pacing wise, they do spend a lot of time on their come up on the early days. That's I totally understand that, but it's kind of unavoidable. But I do like that it ties back to where they are right now or how they were in the 90s up until MC's death, right? And then well, just including the tribute that they did to MC was quite you know touching as well. You know what I mean? Just really great how they pay tribute to him as well. And you know what I mean? Like the band literally split at the moment when he died. Like they just stopped touring, stopped performing, stopped making music right when he died. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? That just goes to show how much of an impact he made on the group and left on the group, right? So I mean, not much more I could say about this show here, rating wise. I'm gonna give this a lighter, decent 4 to 5. Is that the best
Right.
documentary you've seen? Not the best music doc I've ever seen, but as someone who never really knew the behind the scenes behind the group, it was great for me to just hear it from the guys just directly, hear the stories and whatnot. Just them reflecting on the good deeds, the bad deeds, and just learning lessons along the way, right? And that should just be an inspiration to anybody, regardless of whether you're doing music or writing or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Not staying in one box. Just keep learning, keep doing, keep living, keep doing new things, and you know what I mean, just growing. You know what I mean, and letting your art grow with your personal growth as well. And that to me is what I love about Beastie Boys as a whole, and what I'm going to take from this movie and what I'm going to take from the band as a whole. Just that idea of changing and just always evolving, and just not just evolving to be, you know, assholes, but just evolving to be better people, better musicians, and just contribute to, you know, to life, to society, and all that good stuff, right? So yeah, if you're a music fan, because yes, let's be real, Beastie Boys impacted music, period. Not just hip hop, but just music as a whole, right? If you're a music fan, you definitely need to check this out. But just know going in, this is not gonna be your average music doc. They're gonna get your talking heads and all that average stuff. It's just these two guys talking, and you know they have fun with it as well too, and that's really what it is, right? Also, if you're a Beastie Boys fan, well, yeah, this is an absolute must see. If you never really knew anything about the band, I really recommend checking out their music. Even though it would hurt going and watching the show, because you'll hear songs like, oh yeah, I know that song, but then hopefully it should make you go and listen to the albums themselves and be like, all right, cool, right? But yeah, overall, this is for the music heads out there. If you're just curious to see what the show's about, yeah, give it a look. But if you're not into the Beastie Boys at all, I mean, I could imagine why. I mean, whatever. But still, if you're not a fan of them, then I don't think this is gonna do anything for you. But yeah, I mean, for everybody else, yeah, give this a watch, man. It wouldn't. Give this a watch.